Why will this episode be powerful for my audience to hear?
We get caught in our victim stories. As human beings, we are exceptionally good storytellers. We have all this marketing stuff where we think we're teaching people how to tell stories, but the truth is we are really good at telling stories. And one of our favorite stories is a story about, I can't because somebody else needs to.
Mm-hmm.
And the Show Up Positive movement is all about, which should resonate also with high-performing individuals, standing in your agency and your power and catching yourself in this conversation of looking outside and blaming outside and looking for fix outside of yourself and recognizing I am capable, I am competent, and I know what I want, I know what I need. And the place I'm going to start is me. I'm going to start being who I need to be to achieve the happiness and the fulfillment and the gratification and the validation that I need. And when I start showing up positive for myself, it's going to ripple out to others around me. And it's going to make an impact on others, and it's going to invite them to join me. And we're going to take back our power and take back our workplace because we have that capacity in ourselves.
Okay, so this is so in line with what I coach on. Actually, my program is called Be the CEO of Your Life. The name of this podcast is Be the CEO of Your Life because I profoundly believe in the positive side effects that one can gain in their own life. And one says, I'm the CEO, I'm going to make decisions and I'm going to begin to create a life that I want, responses to the life I've got that I like. So let me just quickly introduce who you are, why are you in the podcast, and then we just carry on with this conversation. I kind of already know I'm going to like you, and they're also going to. But they will be the ones to tell us. So you guys, if you listen to this episode, if you find it helpful, interesting, let us know that you liked it. Give us a review. Give us a thumbs up. Come say hi on Instagram. Tell me that you like this episode. Let us know. Rita Ernst, say that well. I just want to say that she's the guest today, and I'll tell you more about her in a moment. But she just told me, who's your audience? And I was like, I don't know. All I know is that we have 2,000 to 3,000 people downloading the episode every month, but I don't know them.
Smart, amazing people, Olga, who download your episodes, right?
Yes, they are that because they keep coming back for more great information. And it's because of having people like you, Rita, who are passionate about sharing their gift with the world, who are excited to be sharing. And so I'm so happy that you're here. For those of you listening, Rita is an organizational owns an organizational consulting practice that emphasizes. I can't talk today. All right, refocused.
You're so excited for this conversation. You're tongue-tied.
I know. You know what? Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell them the name of your company, what you do, and then we just dive in. Help me. Help a mama out.
Absolutely. So hello, I am Rita Ernst. I am the author of Show Up Positive. I am an organizational psychologist. I own my own practice called Ignite Your Extraordinary. And for those of you that are unfamiliar, organizational psychology is about taking the principles of psychology. So behavioral theory, motivation theory, learning theory, personality theory, all of those elements, even some neuroscience in there, and looking at how people come together in the workplace to create and serve and make things happen collectively. So going from individual into collective outcomes, collective delivery, collective performance. And that's been my whole career. I've done that inside of corporations, and I've done that independently as a consultant.
And that is why she's here. And lesson, we should always introduce ourselves. Nobody can speak with more passion about who we are and what we do than ourselves. So thank you for introducing yourself, Rita. I am happy, very happy that you are sharing in the episode. And let's just keep going down the path of I wonder if you could give us a bit of help us differentiate between positive psychology and then the positive movement that you were talking about, if it's one and the same. Can you help us I know some people who've reached out to me say positive psychology is toxic, we're done feeling this way. Have you heard that?
I have not. That makes me think they don't understand what positive psychology is, because I'm going in March, I'm going to the World Happiness Summit in Lake Como, Italy, and it's filled with positive psychology experts that I am so excited to drink in their wisdom. So let's just dispel that little myth about toxicity attached to positive psychology, because the foundation of psychology is mental health. And it's almost like a medical approach. And so we are looking for a problem, we're offering a solution. We're looking for a problem, we're offering a solution, right? That's how medical works. And so for the longest time, the focus of psychology, the question we were asking is, what's wrong with people? Where is there wrong? What is out of place? And let's fix what's wrong. Positive psychology said, maybe we don't need to fix. Maybe we need to find what's right. Maybe we need to reinforce what's right. Maybe we need to lean into and grow what's right. How do we notice what's right, what's working? And how do we emphasize and manifest more of that instead of exclusively using our focus to find all the problems and fix them?
Oh,
Now, what do you think about that, Olga?
I agree with you. If I'm not a psychologist, but I am a clinical social worker, and I've worked in clinical work for a long time. And if I had to identify as if what will be the pattern I fall, I would say it would be very, very much close to positive psychology, understanding what you understand. But I really wanted you to say it, because this is truly what I've heard from people. And I love
let me tell you, I actually had this moment of panic after I wrote my book, and I worked with a friend of mine who is a phenomenal copywriter, and I was trying to decide on, titling your business, titling your book. These are equally difficult kinds of things. And she was like, you need a really good hashtag that you can just own. And so I have been playing around with all of these ideas for the book title. And she was going through and she's like, I like hashtag show up positive. I think you could totally own that. And that's how we got to the name of the book. And then it just felt like it exploded everywhere, this toxic positivity conversation. And I was like, oh no, people are going to see this book and they're going to think, oh my God, it's one of those toxic positivity things.
She's the one everybody's been talking about.
Yeah, toxic. Just another one of those people saying, slap a smile on your face and just pretend it'll be okay. And eventually it will be okay. And just for those of you listening, that is antithetical to the message of my book and my idea of show up positive. But for me, and I give some examples in the book, showing up positive is sometimes being willing to have the most difficult conversation, because showing up positive is showing up for yourself. Yeah. When you start showing up for your truth, for your integrity, for the person that you want to look in the mirror and be proud of, when you start allowing her to shine and you stand up for her, sometimes that means you've got to say, that's not okay. It's not okay for you to make sexist jokes around me, or it's not okay for you to make fun of disabilities, whatever it might be. It's okay for you to stand up for those things. And that does not make you negative because you are naming that issue. Right. So positivity is about that alignment of self, that that your head and your heart are in synchrony, and you're people are experiencing you in the world in that synchronous way.
And I love that differentiation of positive doesn't mean you're faking happiness. It means the side effect of doing the thing that you're doing will have a positive, like
Yes.
it will be positive for you or the relationship or your health. And that doesn't always equal easy or
Yes.
simple or smiley rainbows and butterflies. Loved it. I actually just came off coaching a client of mine, and it's like it was perfect person to coach just before seeing you. Because she said, I am trying to become aware of how we end up in such an argument, my husband and I. And I keep asking myself, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? And I just couldn't figure it out. And I'm like, you ask a lousy question. Your brain just quit. It was like, I'm not admitting fault of anything. And so tell us a little bit more about how can a human who's listening to us be thinking about, okay, so I get it. You guys are saying being positive means also doing difficult things that are going to take me out of my comfort. And if you just said that this is not like the medical system, we're going to find what's wrong with you, how are you broken, and fix that, but rather we're going to look into what is good with me. What, like, do you have any steps that you will ask people to follow on? What can they do to show up positively? Where will they start? If they're in this habit of knowing that my high achieving, as I'm sure your clients do, your patients do, constantly rule life or achieve by noticing where their deficits are and just going full force into, like, mitigating or compensating for what's wrong, quote unquote wrong. And you're proposing something differently. So I want to know, like, tell us a little bit more about this.
So one of the things that I did when I wrote the book, and this was actually the core idea behind my book, it's written in two parts. And part 2 of the book is a repository of 50 ways that you could show up positive for yourself. So there are 50 inspirational words. And I sat down one day and I just started brainstorming the list. And I came up with over 300 experiences, ways that we can show up positive in our lives and in our workplaces. And I picked 50 of those for the book. And I think for every person, the journey is absolutely your unique journey. Mm-hmm. Different things are going to resonate with you at different times and periods in your life. But what is important is you notice where you want to increase or improve this feeling of this experience that you're creating for yourself. And you want to really intentionally and deliberately work on that for an extended period of time. So my book isn't like, okay, day one, I open up the book and I read the first word. I've got my book here, so I'm trying to remember what the very first word is. So the first word is amplify. Okay, today I'm going to amplify, and then tomorrow I'm going to applaud, and then on Wednesday, I'm going to be aware, and on Thursday, I'm going to believe. You can't just zip through it, right? You need to really sit in this experience for some time and really work on the practice in a deliberate way. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that is a challenge for high achievers. Mm-hmm. High achievers want that instant gratification, and you're going to get gratification, but you can't get that dose of gratification and say, "Oh, I'm done. I got that." You really need to invest. It's like going to the gym. In fact, I use that analogy in the book. I'm like, it's calisthenics for your mindset, working on your show up positive behaviors. And what you're doing is you're building this bank account you can draw upon. So when things get really tough, we are biologically, this is where the psychology comes in, we are biologically designed to give more time and attention to negative experiences in our life. We fixate on them. We think about them. You're driving in the car, you're replaying that negative conversation with your spouse, your coworker, whomever. You're fixing dinner, you're thinking about it. It sticks in your head, right? It stays with you. You carry it. You feel tension in your body when you think about it. All of those things happen. And it's part of our biology. It's part of our system that we needed when we were cave dwellers, that we were every day fighting for our lives. That oldest part of your brain is still one of the strongest, most active parts of your brain. And the way that we overcome this biological tendency to fixate on the negative things is we got to give it lots of positive messages to give attention to, right? So it's the rule of 4 or 5, right? It takes 4 to 5 positive things to overwrite one negative thing in our heads. So you've really got to do the work on putting lots of positive deposits, noticing. You want to start catching yourself, you want to start catching others, creating positive experiences around you, retraining your brain. It's calisthenics. So it's the same thing. You don't go into the gym and lift weights one day and the next day go in and bench press 200 pounds over your head, right? You have to build up to that. You have to train the muscle
for a long time.
For a very long time. It's the same idea. And what happened is the experience that we went through across the globe in the pandemic just really magnified all the discontent and uneasiness in our lives. Those are all negative messages, and we got really fixated on them. And we got into a lot of habits around noticing and paying attention to the things that were making us unhappy. And oh, by the way, that just made us notice more things. So then we start seeing these crazy images on TV, like the woman who walks into the Walmart and like loses it over the face mask and tearing down the display, and people getting in fights on airplanes. And, all of this craziness, it's because people just fell into this habit of really giving attention in a way that they hadn't before, because there were so many more signals, and we lost some things that are pretty important to us as humans. We lost our connectivity to other people. We actually lost something else, which is a bit of our self-esteem and self-worth, because we knew how to navigate life, and then we had to learn a new way of navigating life. I mean, I don't know how many times I turned around at the door at the grocery store, like, oh my gosh, I don't have my mask. I got to go back to my car, get my mask, then go back in. Right?
Why did I wear lipstick? Now that my mask is burned.
Yes. Oh, it's such a woman's moment, right? Yeah, absolutely. So we felt clumsy. We didn't feel as competent and as assured and as confident as we were used to. And so whether we want to admit it to ourselves or not, our brains fell into this very old prescriptive fight or flight mode, very ancient to our biology.
Yeah.
And we're climbing back out of that.
You just made me think of something. I gave a talk to an organization recently, and I was asked to speak because I'm in Canada, and our federal government just announced to all its employees that it's happening. They're back to the office. And servants, they're called federal servants, are like the workers, the employees are freaking out. They are resisting the change. They're feeling threatened by the change. And I was thinking, my God, it's only been 2 years of that not being the normal. The normal was to go into the office. And we were equally freaking out when we were told stay home. And now that 2 years of being in this routine is almost like made us lose our coping mechanism to commute, to have to get dressed, to have to do laundry on the weekends. Like the things that were happening for years and years are not happening. So I wonder if there's any insight from you, especially I know you also work with, you consult with organizations. Any tips of advice for people who really did get impacted by this new routine of reality, and it's coming to an end, and people are going to have to go back into the different areas that maybe they had already closed off and said, well, I don't need to go into the office. This seems to be like a tragedy right now, to go back to how can we help them cope with that? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that you're naming something that is very spot on true. And it is a growing conversation of this call back into the normal workplace. And people are very resistant for all the reasons that you said. And in some cases, maybe rightly so. But I think that as employers, what I would say is employers really need to recognize this as the significant change that it is, and they need to have some grace. And now is a good time to be on a listening tour. If you're in leadership inside of your organization, stop knowing and start getting curious and start listening. I'm not saying that you can fix all the issues, and some of them may not be yours to fix, but empathy can go a very long way. And so that working parent, especially a single parent who has to now find childcare. I don't know what it's like in Canada. In the United States, it's still very difficult.
Oh, it is here too.
To find childcare. So trying to find childcare, it's probably going to cost you a lot more money. So the whole economics of your situation and this whole just getting kids up and ready and out the door and yourself ready and out the door and lunches and commuter traffic and all those things, do not underestimate how much stress and how much difficulty that is inserting into people's life. Yes, people knew how to do that, and they did it because that was just what everybody was expected to do. And so you grow up, you get a big person job, and this is what you're expected to do, and you figure out and you do it. But we gave people insight into this idea that, you know what, I can contribute. I can do a phenomenal job for my employer, and I don't have to do all that stuff. So yes, for some people, it's like, why? I don't understand. And do you understand what the challenges are that this is creating for me? And so I think for employers, flexibility is really that place that you meet in the middle. And I think for us as workers, what we need to come into that conversation with is where is the flexibility? What are we asking for? Maybe it is, not the normal time. Maybe you're doing some kind of hybrid where you're working some core hours in the office workplace, but because of the childcare and all those things, you're also working some off hours, non-standard hours for other tasks that can be taken outside of that core time. So I think we have to do a little bit of effort on our part as well. And, you can stay stuck in that victim conversation of I'm being forced back to work and I have to do this and I have to do that. I think I did, I'd have to dig through. I think I did a broadcast Monday Minutes program that I do every week on this idea of changing your language of, I get to versus I have to.
Oh, I like that.
Right. So I get to go back into the office and be near my colleagues. I get to go back into the office and share the work in a different way. Like, I get to go back into the office and manage the commute. Now that, that's a less fun part of that. But what do I need? What do I need to ask for? What does it mean for me to manage that commute? And so in some employers in the governments, in the US, the government tends to be one of them that is harder to shift. But, this idea of everybody is walking in the door at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. and out the door at this time, that there might need to be some fluidity that looks a little bit different. And it's certainly easier when we just treat everybody as one thing. We categorize it and we say everything in this category follows this set of rules. And I think that thinking that we got away with in business for so long, I think that we can't stay in that place anymore. And we're going to have to get out of that kind of fit people into boxes and categories and really start to meet people where they are. And if you are a leader of people, this means that you're going to put a lot more time and attention for a little bit of time on connecting with your people and asking questions and solving people issues, not just doing the work assignments, the tasks that you've been assigned in your job. And that's a different kind of challenge because so many businesses really took the leadership role away from people in some regards, put less emphasis on that and filled them up with a lot of other doer tasks instead of leading tasks.
Mm-hmm. So I really do like the call to leaders, to think about even what's the resistance all about, like understanding that and not assuming. And I also love, it takes two to tango. You as the employee thinking of, am I in victim mode and how could I make this work? I really like that. I was excited of commuting back to my son's Montessori because I get to listen to podcasts. And I'm like, woo! It's like I had this mandatory extra time. And I was like, what else can I do while I'm driving? Oh, I'm going to listen to podcasts. And I really do enjoy, or books, audiobooks, which is also my preferred way of reading books right at this moment. By the way, where do we find your book?
So my book is available. It's in international distribution. You can request it through any bookstore, should be able to order it from my distributor. Amazon and Barnes & Noble, you should find ready-made links. You can also go to my website, igniteextraordinary.com, click on Show Up Positive, and on my page, I have some hot links. But Olga, I just submitted for the third time. It is a process. Girl, is it a process? The audiobook files. So I'm hoping that within the next 30 days, the audiobook is going live and you'll be able to access it on any number of places, including iTunes and
books, awesome.
Spotify and all of those things. But yes, I am a huge audiobook consumer as well. And so
it's just fun to have somebody read your book. That childhood story repeats itself. I really like to have somebody read me the book while I'm exercising or driving.
Oh, when I have two girls, they're both teenagers now. One is in college, one is in high school. But after having baby number two, most specifically, the time to just sit and read a book just was never there.
Yeah, it disappeared.
And so, audiobooks became the only way I could consume content. And as my girls have grown, it's like, now I'm cooking dinner. I'm reading a book. After I drop her off at school or before I pick her up from school in the afternoon, I'm listening to my audiobook. Then I'm chatting with her, right?
Yeah.
When I walk the dog, when I exercise, when I'm doing laundry, whatever it is.
It's a companion.
I'm back to the place where I can read 2 or 3 books in a week, like I did before children, because of the audiobook content. So
yeah, I'm with you. And it also started when I had my baby and I was just walking places and he's falling asleep and I'm like, oh, well, this isn't fun. I'm just going to listen to a book. And that was a lot more fun. I want to come back to utilizing positive psychology, or like your business name is Igniting Our Extraordinary. I love that. Tell me more. I want people to walk away thinking, listen, I can turn it on. I can be the creator of my own extraordinary. I can choose that this is the part of me that's going to be out and about into the world. How do we do that? When perhaps your brain is consumed a little bit with all the things that are not working or what's wrong with you, like my client was like, what is wrong with me? Asking lousy questions to their brain and therefore getting lousy answers. How do we instigate the extraordinary, the light to come and shine?
I think that the most important thing that you can do is you need that thought partner. Whether that is somebody that you're hiring as an expert to work with you, or whether it's a trusted friend. The truth is, I ask myself lousy questions too.
Of course. Yeah.
It is so much easier for me to have clarity about somebody else's business and what's going on for them than it is for me to do it for myself. I have a colleague, I work in a co-working space. She's a brand strategist, and I often collaborate with her on projects, and we'll talk about content, and she'll be like, oh, I just love the way you say things. But when it's my own content, I'm just like tripping all over myself. I can't figure out if I'm saying the right thing, if I'm saying it the right way. I lack all the confidence. It's all the same things that people have when they come to me. So just know that you are not alone, and that when we try to do everything by ourselves and inside ourselves, we are doing a huge disservice to ourselves. And one of my connections shared this statistic. I'm not going to get it exactly right, but it was explained so much, and I want to share it with your audience. And that is that just thinking, just lip silent, head going, just thinking, our thoughts roll at some extraordinary number, like 400,000 thoughts a minute. I mean, it's just like a freight train. When you and I are in conversation, Olga, and I am talking to you, I'm operating at like maybe 1,000 words and thoughts a minute, right? It just dramatically slows the process down. And so it's not surprising that even if we ask ourselves good questions, we don't always get to good answers, because it's all this silent thing going on in our head, and it's going at way too fast of a speed for us to really even notice where the good stuff is. And this is why when you work with a coach, and maybe you've been in counseling, a lot of times you're told to journal, to write things down. Journaling forces you to slow down. It's like having a conversation. So if you're going to try to do it on your own, you've got to either write or speak. You've got to do one of those two things. And then you've got to really look around you and listen for better questions.
So when I recently wrote a piece for one of my coach's books, and she's a writer, a coach for writers, writing coach. I don't know, and she writes often books. And she had this piece on journaling and just explaining the healing power of just writing your own thoughts, even without having that mentor or anybody, just writing your own thoughts. And the reason she asked me to do that is because I came to Canada as a refugee after like having experienced something very traumatic in my life. The audience, I've shared this before, but the audience, my only refuge was a notebook that they gave me from the dollar store, and a pen. It was to take notes in the classes that I was going to, none of which I did. All I did was write down all of my emotions, and it witnessed me throughout the first 8 months of being in Canada, having to adjust to all the things. And to this date, I promise, I swear that was what made me understand what was going on, shift the narrative, heal what needed to be healed. There was something, and I don't know you as a psychologist that you can maybe explain, but there is something, because you also said to hear yourself, right? Like to speak. Like, yes. What is the power of witnessing our own thoughts and emotions on paper? And what is the power behind, like, when you are talking conversations? Like, I know when my clients talk about themselves, they often say, now that I hear it, it's not all that big of a deal. Or now that I'm saying it this way, it kind of sounds funny. It's not, there's a power behind also listening to ourselves. I agree with you. Have a mentor, like that's been life-changing. But I like, can you help us getting behind the scenes of what writing, the journaling, or the speaking is so healing, or so important to get into our extraordinary?
I call it the magic. I don't know that I have the exact neuroscience behind that. Although, thank you to the field of neuroscience and the study of the brain. What we know is when we are thinking, we are only using small parts of our brain. When we think and write, we're using more parts of our brain. When we speak, our whole brain lights up. And so I think that that is sort of the power of it. And I think that, the other thing that you said that is so true is, now that I'm saying it out loud, we psychologically, we are preconditioned to stroke our own ego. We love to be right.
Of course.
Right. And we look and listen for data that affirms our rightness.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it's just this silent conversation going on in your head, it's easy to just do that automatic affirmation. Of course, that, to allow that self-righteous anger to stew. But when you say it out loud, you have to process it in a different way. I remember I went through this wonderful workshop many years ago, and we did this whole exercise where we had to talk about our resentments. Mm-hmm. And one of my colleagues that was attending with me, we were in small group doing exchange and share, and she's like, I don't want to say this, because if I say this out loud, then I have to own it.
Yep.
And that's the other piece of it. You can't dodge it. When you write it down or you say it out loud, it solidifies it in a way that it's not just random thing. It's like, now it's there. And so now I have to deal with it because I just made it real.
Oh, I love it. So this goes back to your very first conversation of owning responsibility.
Yes.
Right? Because once you write it and you're like, oh, this is what I think about myself, and you own it, this is what I think about myself, then it gives you decision power. Do I want to continue to think this way? Or is this something that I want to continue to engage in, or, whatever the case might be?
Yes. Yes.
Mm. That's very interesting. It's true. When you're speaking, you're utilizing a lot more. It's hard for you to speak while you're writing, or it's hard for you to speak while you're doing, something else, because it takes so much of your thinking capacity. It takes so much of your brain capacity to just be in the talking and making sense of what you're saying, right? It's easy to just speak nonsense while you're cleaning or whatever, but to be focused, it does take a lot more from your brain. So I'm sure that has something to do.
Well, and the other thing is that our brains actually lie to us quite a bit. Mm-hmm. We allow our brain to come to conclusions and make connections to things, and we tell ourselves these internal stories. So I call it your inner critic. We all have this voice in the back of our head that's this, constant inner critic criticizing our lives and the people around us. And that critical voice goes unexamined when we're not writing or saying things. But that doesn't change that there's all this criticism just constantly rolling in the back of your mind. And a lot of times it's not really truthful or valid.
Right. Or factual, right? Like it's not factual, but if nobody's stopping it to think like, hey, are you telling the truth? We just continue to believe it, or like let it continue to have its power. Now, what did you say? You said something along the lines of, like, you started by saying, okay, so having a thought partner, somebody that can hear you say the thoughts and can kind of maybe question, what did you just say? Right? Like,
yes.
Like when you have a fear that sounds logical to you, but when you say it out loud, everybody's like, that's so not logical. Let me show you why. That would be one way to have somebody help you see your blind spots, right? Like I think of the psychologist I saw when I was trying to conceive unsuccessfully and having so many thoughts in my head that I was not aware of. Having that person was really helpful to see the blind spots, how I was co-creating so much of my own sadness. Now, what will be a second step? What will be a second starting point, or not following up point? Like they've got themselves a psychologist or a coach or a therapist or a friend, like you said, who's like going to remain neutral to help them out, hear their thoughts. How else can they just refine that extraordinary from themselves? take it out?
Well, the second most powerful thing that I often work with people on is that this idea, we're highly complex individuals. And that means that we can hold competing commitments. So we can want more time with our family, and yet we can also want this accolade at work or more money or something that's going to demand our time away from our family.
Mm-hmm. Been there.
we hold these competing commitments all the time. And so oftentimes we need to discover where our competing commitments are showing up in our life and how they're contributing to what we are experiencing. So that would be the next place I would say in finding your extraordinary, you're part of the self-limiting equation. Where is that showing up in your life? And really beginning to identify. And when you identify it, it's not that you have to fix it immediately. That's not the thing, but it's about noticing it and understanding how it is happening in your life. And typically, even though we hold competing commitments, one is winning out over the other. So why is that winning out? Are we okay with that continuing to win out? So if we have this commitment that we want to spend more time with our families, but we also want this huge opportunity at work that's going to take us away from our family, and we take the opportunity at work, we've made the choice, right? So do we make that choice with knowing or not knowing? Are we going to sit in this guilt of not having more time with our family? We made a choice. Like, how do we begin to really reconcile and understand within ourselves and give ourselves permission to make tough choices like that? Because life is not always going to be easy choices.
Or balance, right? Of like perfect imbalance. So when one realized, I just coached somebody today, or somebody I actually run a mini course called Detox the Mind, to actually become aware of that recurring voice that you were saying that it's in the background, just to create awareness. And somebody was saying she realized that exactly what you're saying. She's a therapist and she wants to be like the best and show up. But when she's working, her inner dialogue is like, you should be with your kids. And when she's with her children, her inner dialogue says, you should be working. So when you realize you have conflicting commitments, like you call them, and okay, I'm aware, and I've made a tough choice maybe, or I'm in between making the choices. What will be a thinking process? What will be something that could help our audience listening now think like, okay, I've got this conflict. One doesn't have to win over the other, or one does have to win over the other. And how do I come at peace with that? What will be something that could help them? Like you said, even sometimes making tough choices is going to have a positive side effect on you. Like, what do we then change the inner dialogue, realize why we've made the choice we have? Like, what will you suggest?
Well, let's take the example that you gave, which is an easy one, I think, to speak to. So this conflict of when I'm at work, I'm thinking I should be with my family. When I'm with my family, I'm thinking about all the work that I should be getting done. The way I would disentangle that is in terms of like, where is the extraordinary in that? So when you are with your family, what creates extraordinary moments with them? In most of the time, you don't have to have a lot. It's not about the volume of time. It's about the quality
I agree.
of the time, right? And it's the same thing at work, right? So at work, where am I putting my effort and attention? Am I using my time wisely? Am I feeling good about my time? Do I have a good game plan for work so that for me and for many people, when I can be task focused, when I can be outcome focused, I know that today is a good day if I achieve A, B, and C. These are my goals for the day. These are the top 3 things. And most of us do really well when we have no more than 3, 2 to 3 essential things. So I might think with my family, what's happening in my family today? You know, when my kids were younger, it was always important to me to have story time with them before bed. So when I had requests for work commitments that would take me beyond bedtime, I got myself out of as many of those as I could. You know, I just said I declined. I left early because I chose to prioritize. Now, did that maybe cost me some opportunities for advancement or whatever? I didn't care. It was like, value me on this content work that I'm doing, but I'm choosing to make this time the thing that the measure of my success in terms of prioritizing my family the way I want them to. I didn't have to be there for bath time. I didn't have to sit at the dinner table every night, but
it meant something to you for reading. Yes. I love that.
Yes. So I think that's what I would say. I would say that, you know, you've got to define wherever your competing commitments are. They are going to be in struggle. It's not going to be easy resolution, but you then have to really begin to set boundaries around each of those and know what's the most essential thing for you.
I love that because it brings the person back to intentionality. Like, how do I want to feel when I'm with my family? How do I want to feel when I'm at work? And creating those boundaries with yourself, right? Like, I'm at work right now. Let's focus on that. Let's give it our best. I like to think of myself, maybe how can I be the most valuable right now?
Yes.
Like if I'm with my son, and often that's playtime, you know, like that's, if I think through the lenses of a 3-year-old, what he will love most, the most valuable I become to him is when I'm playing dinosaur. And when I think through the lenses of my clients or the people I'm speaking to, like right now, is how can I be the most valuable is to really be present here, to hear what you're saying, and ask you relevant questions so that I get to learn from you and we get to, you know, we get to connect. So I absolutely love that way of untangling it. And I think normalizing those conflicts, I think we all have them. And I think moms, especially, we really feel the pull to be all things, and really just being intentional kind of solve some of that. I love that.
Yes, I mean, I just to ground it one more time for the listeners. Let's take the example because this comes up a lot for working parents. You stay at work instead of attending your child's baseball game, basketball game, soccer game, whatever it might be, some sporting event. If you are sitting at work and you keep thinking about your child playing that game, you're distracted. You're not really doing work that you feel good about while you're at work. And so you're creating this lose-lose proposition. I'm not at the game and I'm not really fully contributing at work. And so I'm a loser in this moment, right? But if I think about the game and I think, you know, okay, yeah, the game is going on. Let me get this done. It's like if I want connection to the game, what does that connection look like? Is it I'm going to get my work done in time then to go get pizza with my family afterwards to celebrate the game? Or am I going to get home in time to sit with my child for dessert and talk about their day and hear them tell me stories about the game? So you need to sort of decide how you can hook it. If your child's achievements in sports matter to you, you've got to find the way to hook into it so that you can let go in the moment. So you can have your win at work and then you can go home and have your win connected to your child's sporting event. You have to craft the win-win.
Like create leverage, have a reward at the end. Like if you do, I do this with food and maybe I shouldn't, but I do this with food with my son. If you finish this, there is dessert. So he really is eager to finish that for what he gets after. So for us, if we finish work, then you get to catch up at pizza. Or yeah, I love that. I really do love that approach. Now, you mentioned briefly, and I know time is up, positive psychology and showing up positively is really about wondering what's actually working and giving more emphasis to that. So for somebody who might be feeling like nothing is working, and there are people out there that think their life is absolutely in shambles and that there's nothing that they can do, what do we tell them when they actually feel defeated?
I think that all of us experience times of defeat, but you have to decide, are you going to let that moment define you? Mm-hmm. Or are you going to let that be a moment in the larger picture of your life? I am encouraging you to say that's a moment in the larger picture of your life. And so the whole idea, that repository at the back of the book, when I wrote this book, I wanted, even though it's only produced in paperback, to make it lighter and easier to carry with you wherever you go. But the idea is you're going back into those 50 show up positive sparks at any point in time. Mm-hmm. So when you're feeling defeated, I want you to go look through the book. I want you to look at those 50 words and say, what's a word that speaks to me right now? And then open up the book and read. And I'm going to talk to you about how to actually bring that experience into your life. How you can start to show up, how you can start to behave in a way that is, so like the word I just flipped to is constructive, right? So yes, I'm feeling defeated, but for the remainder of today, I'm just going to work on being constructive. I'm going to be helpful, productive. How do I do that? And I'm going to give you ideas about ways that you can do that. So it is that slow and consistent. The way out of your despair is this consistent attention towards something positive, picking one thing and just doing the work, just working on that one idea and noticing yourself and noticing others around you that are demonstrating that one positive idea. So that's going to be the only way that I know that you can move past that, right? But we all have moments when it feels like a lot of things are going wrong all at once. But I want you to think, I'm competent, I'm capable, I'm smart. So how can I add one positive thing in this sea of crap that's flooding my life? What's going to be my lifeboat of one little positive yellow lifeboat?
And I would like to say that normally that tiny little bit is something that you say in jokingly, I guess the only good thing is that I'm breathing. Like something you're kind of making fun of, you're minimizing because you don't realize actually that's amazing. Without that little thing breathing, you wouldn't be here altogether. So you might be sarcastic towards what is working. And I think we tend to minimize it so we don't even hear it. But it might be that what you think is the tiniest of things, but it's actually so powerful and so great that you have it, right? If you're healthy, I call it a great day.
Yes. Well, and the other thing I would say is get up and move. The other thing that we cannot underestimate, the power of nature. If you can get out into a park or into a natural setting and just moving your body, changing your location up a little bit, and you don't have to exercise in a hard cardiovascular way, but just walking, just moving your body and getting outside into nature can be a huge way of lifting some of that oppression from yourself and clearing your mind a little bit and giving yourself space.
I can 100% say I attest to that for my own personal life. I've seen it with my clients, but I don't want you to take her word, Rita's word, or my word for granted. Don't think like this is the truth. Just go put it to test. Prove us wrong. Go move for a full week consecutively out in nature or wherever your heart desires, but move 30 days, 10 minutes. I don't care how long you want to do it, but just do it consistently for a period of time that you set your mind to do. And you come back and tell us, this is crap. or you guys were right. It is, I couldn't say anything better than that. It is the one single thing that I think will self-produce motivation and consistency and energy and happiness and self-connection. Extraordinary things. Rita, thank you so much for your time. We will have Rita's website and all of her links right in our show notes. If you want to order her book, we'll have a special link to do that so that you can go ahead and order that. I highly suggest you do. What wrong could come to you if you read a book that says step up positively? I don't think.
And I wrote the book for non-readers, so I did the best I could. It's filled with stories. It's in short little segments. So if you're a busy mom like Olga and I, and you think, oh, I've got 30 minutes to read, and you open up your book and you sit down, and 5 minutes later, your child comes in with something that requires your attention, you'll be able to stop and you won't feel like you've lost your place. You can come back 2 days later, 2 weeks later, pick up the book and just keep right on going. It's not this dense narrative that really requires concentration. I tried to write for the busy female executive that I know I am. I hear that you are, Olga, and give us something that is meaningful and matches pace with the lifestyle that we are in.
Well, thank you so much for writing that book and showing me what's possible. Now, in my busy life, I could potentially also write a book, but thank you also for thinking of the reader as you're writing it. I think that makes it even better, because we do want to show up positively. We just don't know how to. And we often think that we don't have the time to do that. So having a book that offers us the tools, the expertise that you have as an organizational psychologist, and all the work you've done with busy people in general, I think is going to be a gift to everyone who gets this book into their own hands. Rita, thank you. Thank you so much for reaching out. And everybody, go follow Rita on Instagram, on YouTube, and LinkedIn, as well as follow her website for more resources and buy the book. See you guys next Monday. Hey guys, Olga here. I am super excited to be inviting you this spring to do 2 things with me. First of all, come detox your mind. No matter who you are, how great you are at thinking, it is impossible to always be thinking positively, but we can always think intelligently. And so I'm inviting you for 5 days of cleaning your mind from the weeds that have been growing over the last few months that need to get out so that you can feel light and confident and attached to your purpose. Come to Detox the Mind from April 24th to the 28th. It's 5 days, $97. And you will begin to feel so uplifted and with a much clearer mind. The second invitation is to join me inside Reset Your Mindset, my 12-week coaching program that starts on May 12th, and the registration is now open. Both of these opportunities are on the show notes. Head over there and click on the ones that you want. You can absolutely do both, and you will absolutely see results. All right, talk to you guys soon. Hopefully I'll see you in there.